Welcome into TimeOut Kansas City. We're here on the Fired Up Network. You can see it. The best place to watch it is the True TV Plus app. You can download that on Amazon and Roku or the Apple App Store for the TVs, your phone, or the computer. And I want to give a thank you to our friends at Sports.tv. We are on Sports.tv now, the biggest all sports streaming platform in the country. You can check out Fired Up Network on there, FREE 24/7 on both platforms. Today, I'm joined by Jeremy Gerko from the Royals Review
Yep.
and Steve from the Paint the Wall podcast, which you can now see on the Fired Up Network as well. And I wanted to talk with you guys about a couple, well, actually, two teams going one direction, one team going the other way. The Royals are just rolling with a record that leaves them on pace to win 94 games if they hold the historical average for teams that hit the record of 32 and 19. 94 is the median point wins, which would be pretty darn close to the all-time record improvement in a year. The Kansas City Current, they continue to sit undefeated at the top of the table. They get a win in a kind of downpour, rain-delayed game out in Utah against the Utah Royals, formerly the franchise that was the original NWSL team in Kansas City. They get the win from, like I said, if you're going to be placing wagers on who would score the winning goal and you had Elizabeth Ball, you know a lot of soccer. Elizabeth Ball punching in the goal. So those are the good. And then on the troubling side, Sporting Kansas City dropped another one, this time on the road to Portland. They have 2 games this week, so it's definitely time to put the pedal down and see if that winning mentality is there, and that'll be the key. But hey, let's start on the good first. Jeremy, man, if you were a regular reader and listener of the Royals Review, you would have seen the preseason picks for 94 wins, right?
Yeah, sure. I actually went back and looked at those predictions. I predicted the most wins at 84. The average of the other writers and even the readers was about 75 wins. So I did the
Yeah.
math sometime last week and came up with, if the Royals played at a 75 win pace from that moment to the end of the year, they would still win 83 games.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's crazy.
yeah, there's all kinds of fun numbers you can play with that are just like, yeah, no, the Royals have banked enough wins that even if they don't play great for the rest of the year, they're probably going to be in playoff contention, and it seems almost inevitable that they'll finish above 500.
Oh, it would be an epic collapse. I think, and this stat came from Curtis Seabolt, the K Dog, the co-host of the program on 810 with Seren Petro. There's only been one team that had a record of 32 and 19 that ended up with a losing record. I believe it was a Baltimore Orioles team that just absolutely tanked it. So, I mean, it took a lot. It took injuries and it took saying, forget it, this isn't the year, and dumping pieces. I mean, I picked them to win 78 games, which was an improvement of 22 games, which is a pretty big jump in baseball
Yeah.
terms. And they're exceeding the expectations. Seth Lugo's been tremendous. Michael Wacha seems to have refound himself after starting the year rough. And Cole Reagans looks like the man. And then even another pickup in the bullpen, General MacArthur. The guy's been a good closer. I
Yeah.
mean, JJ Piccolo really, for a person who was said that, and there was lots of talk going on in Kansas City. How do you bring him back? You got to fire him. You got to fire Quatrero. Man, they're showing they actually had a plan, and maybe last year was legitimately a evaluation year, and they weren't lying.
Yeah, I don't know how you could have fired Quatrero after 1 year with the roster that he had last year. I know a lot of
That would have
people
been a
had
bad
complaints
choice.
about Yeah, people had complaints about his bullpen choices, but he didn't have any good choices to make. Whatever choice he made was gonna be bad, so that's
Yeah.
not his fault. But at the same time, JJ Piccolo, as much as you might have disliked him, he brought in James McArthur. He brought in Cole Reagans. He made some savvy moves, some savvy free agent signings, and trusted the coaching staff, which I give tons of credit, especially to the pitching coaches, for how improved these pitchers have been. I mean, Seth Lugo was good last year, but he wasn't this good.
No.
Alec Marsh has taken a huge step forward. Even Brady Singer, who I'm not his biggest fan, looks significantly improved this year.
Well, and I think kind of referencing our other team, Steve. I think you see when everybody is doing the job, it makes the job easier for everybody else. Whereas when everyone's kind of struggling, now everyone's, stressed and everything has to be perfect. And that's where the mistakes come in. And I think that's true across all sports.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Royals are a perfect example of what happens when everybody on a team buys in. And Sporting right now is a perfect example of what happens when not everybody's bought in. The end of last year, we kind of turned things around and everybody, bought back in. But we seem to have dropped the ball back on that one. But the Royals are a prime example of the exact opposite of that, I think.
Yeah, well, hey, I had a chance to go down and cover the game, the Wednesday game, the getaway game against Detroit. Talked to Michael Massey. He didn't play in that game, but man, he has been a welcome addition coming back in. And really, I think he was part of what fueled that long winning streak because he added another impact bat and kind of stretched the lineup out. Asked him a couple of questions about how much better it feels, whether they're playing now, and where the power came from. Hey, mainly I just wanted to ask you, how great does it feel to be back and be contributing to the team? You went through last year and now this year you guys are rolling.
Yeah, it feels good to be back. Obviously no one likes to be hurt and be away from the team. So, good to be back, good to be contributing. Team's playing great, and we're looking forward to the rest of the year.
And then, what's been the key to the added power this year?
I haven't really had much focus with it. Just really trying to swing at good pitches and use the whole field. And I don't think there's any rhyme or reason for it. Just doing my work in the cage with the hitting coaches and trying to stay inside the ball a little bit more. Like maybe getting some more elevation, but certainly not necessarily trying to hit them.
And does it just feel different now that you got the added pitching? You guys have had success. Does all the work from last year feel like, hey, now it's all coming together?
Yeah, I think we certainly saw this coming last year. I don't think it was a secret that we were trying to play and develop and be ready to go for this year. So I think everyone's done a good job contributing, and we're gonna keep it going.
Hey, great. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
And interesting to hear Michael pointed out, and he elaborated on a little bit too, that hey, everybody saw this coming because of how we played at the end of the year. And there's some truth to that because they all consistently, Quatrero, JJ Piccolo, any of the players you talked to said, hey man, we're a better team than the record indicated. And they did play much better the last month of the season because they were steamrolling to be the worst team in Royals history. And they actually, they're still bad, but they picked up some ground. I think they actually did bring some momentum over from last year to this year. And I was just going to look at, mainly I just wanted to ask you hey, he's coming back. I was just going to look up to see if Jordan Lyles was still on the active roster. I know he is, but man, we're not even using the guy anymore. And last year he was probably the number one pitcher in terms of volume of innings. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, he's not on the active roster.
He's not now? Okay.
He went on the inactive roster early in the year, and he's still there without any word really about what's going on with him.
There we go. But huge addition by subtraction. And no offense to Jordan Lyles or the Lyles family.
Yeah, absolutely. At least in terms of how he was pitching last year. I think pretty much most of us assumed he would be at least somewhat better this year. but unfortunately for him, he's not been able to pitch at all. So it's unfortunate for him, but it's been fortunate for other guys. I don't know if Sam Long would be in the big leagues right now if Jordan Lyles was still here. So it's been
Sure.
nice to see him come up and hopefully add some strikeouts to that bullpen.
And the whole team, they seem to be kind of rallying around, because really when we were talking last week, the biggest challenge facing him was the outfield not hitting, and now Nelson Velasquez seems to have woken up in the last week, and he's looking a little bit more like the player we saw last year.
Yeah, and Hunter Renfroe started taking some walks over the weekend. I don't know how many people noticed that. And then even tonight, as we're recording this, they're playing a game, and he had a double earlier in this game to right field. So it looks like maybe he's coming out of his slump a little. Unfortunately, MJ Melendez is still completely missing in action. But if you got
Yeah.
2 out of 3 of them, that's something at least.
Well, and I got to give Kyle Isbell credit. He only missed, I believe it was one game, lining a foul ball off his own nose.
Yeah, guy, he's tough, and I guess they have him out there wearing a lacrosse mask to protect his face right now. So at least when he's running the bases, when he's at the plate, doesn't need the extra protection, but when he's running the bases, he does. I'm not really sure how
I don't
that
know if
works,
makes,
but that's what
doesn't
they're
make-
doing. They went
doesn't
to
make
Dick's
a whole
Sporting
lot of
Goods,
sense since he got
bought
hurt
a lacrosse
hitting.
mask
But,
and said,
oh,
"Wear this
well.
when you're running the bases."
There you go. Well, hey, let's go over to the other team that is raking up some wins, the Kansas City Current. They're on an international break now, so it's a good time to take a look back at where they've come from last year, because it really hasn't been talked about a lot, but they were there with a Royals-like season last year. I mean, it was a meltdown. A team that had been to the championship game, you expected them to be really good. They were going to build momentum going into the new stadium, and they just collapsed. Is it really just like the Royals? Hey, we made a few good free agent acquisitions and put them into the core, and that's it? That's all it took? What do you think?
Yeah, kinda, honestly. At least that's how it feels. I mean, I think adding those allowed all the other girls who were already on the team to be able to, like, buy in more. Like
Mhm.
we were just talking about with the Royals being bought in is huge.
Yeah.
But also the people that we were able to sign are having such an impact, already, and I assume we'll continue to do so. So yeah, I think that's just we had a great offseason. The new bringing back Vlatko as the coach, I think, is also a big step.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of success in Kansas City in particular. I know a lot of people were worried about his lack of success with the women's national team, but it's a different, club soccer is different than national team soccer, especially when you have as much stress and pressure as the women's national team coach has on them. So I think that's been a
Well,
big addition too, has been the coach.
yeah, and I'd like to be fair to him about the women's national team and any subsequent coach of the women's national team, because they're being compared and they're being judged against a period of time when only the US was trying. And now all the major soccer powers in the world are legitimately trying in the
Mhm.
women's game. So it's a different ball game. We still have a head start, but it's not like it was a generation ago where the US women's team went out there, rolled the ball out, and they're gonna win 7 or 8-0.
Mhm.
That's not happening anymore. So I mean, if that's the standard that you're being graded against, every US women's national team coach is gonna fail.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think, like you said, other countries now are sick of watching us win everything, I guess. So they're like, well, let's give them a run for their money, and they're being successful at it. So, and I think the women's national team, our women's national team, kind of got a little complacent with where they were sitting too. I think that showed in the last World Cup that
Yeah.
they were maybe a little overconfident, and it definitely showed.
Well, and just to talk about how those additions make a huge difference, they still haven't had everybody healthy and clicking except
Hmm.
for the first half of the first game of the year.
Yep.
We just got Dabinia back, just got Bia back for the last 10 minutes of stoppage time.
Mhm.
She was the player of the month. And now you're getting all the pieces back in place, and they get a nice international break. So they get a week off until they have a Sunday night game on June 9th. Next time they take the pitch against the Seattle Reign. And that's a great atmosphere with a sellout crowd overlooking the river in downtown Kansas City. I think it's going to be hard to not pick them as the favorite in really every home game the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think they're probably the favorite in just about all the away games too. I would think, aside from when they go to Orlando or if they're going somewhere tough like San Diego or up to Gotham, to play up there. That I could see that, but I just they're going to be the favorite in every game, especially if they stay healthy.
Well, and 15 players scoring, which is just a crazy number. Considering, I mean, just for people who just kind of casually watch the soccer leagues here, that's pretty unusual. I mean, I don't think there'll be an MLS team that'll have 15 people score a goal this year.
No, I would doubt it, and it definitely won't be the other team in Kansas City that does that. So
no, and hey, let's talk about them because we talked about the good. Now let's talk about the troubling, I guess.
Sure.
And just since we've played it a few times, here, let's set the stage.
Peter, what do you think it's going to take to turn the momentum around?
Change of mentality. Change of mentality. Change of mentality. That's it. That's it. Look, this game is, sports are all about desire, passion. That's what it's about, right? In sports, you suffer, right? You suffer in different ways. Sometimes you suffer a result. Sometimes you suffer because of the effort, the amount of effort you had to put into a game. Like, that all is part of it. I don't believe that every guy on that field suffered that way tonight. And mentality, heart, you have to have it. If you don't have it, you might as well forget about it. You can't walk into the stadium and you can't step into the field and you miss the most important ingredient in is effort. If you don't have that, you're not willing to outwork your opponent. Because I know soccer is 11v11, but at the end of the day, especially the players, they're 1v1. There's 10 guys. They're 1v1. They play against the same guy a lot in the game. Yeah, sometimes you play against another guy, sure. But you have an individual duel with the guy that you really see through in the game. We all don't dominate those environments, and you have to. You have to do it physically, you have to do it mentally, and then you have to do it technically and tactically as well. You have to do that. And that's not being done by quite a few guys.
Well, that was a couple weeks ago, and you missed out. I mean, the context, there was a lot of fire and brimstone. We're going to address it in practice. Guys are going to know who I'm talking about, and singled out a few guys as not being the issue. And it was a pretty fire and brimstone talk from the head coach. And you get that. I think that's a card you can play once a season, because if you have the fire and brimstone, everybody, come on, let's go. Did the Germans, did we quit when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No, charge. The Animal House Blutowski speech after they got put on double secret super probation. You can do that once and let's go. And if everybody doesn't go with you, well, that's kind of it, because you already turned it up to 12. You went all the way and said, this is it, no more. And then it continues at the same. And, okay, now you really got a problem is kind of what I take from it. I mean,
yeah, change of mentality, like you said. That's the only way that this is going to get turned around, is if we have a change of mentality. I think there's a lot of guys on the team that are not trying as hard as they should be for whatever reason. I know from the subs that we saw in Austin last weekend, it looked like Leibold and Volodare were the two main ones he was talking about. Leibold did get a start again this weekend, so he clearly showed some improvement. I personally think Johnny Russell is on that list too. I think it's just harder to set him out, being our captain and being, being who he is and what he means to the fan base and everything.
Sure.
It's hard to set him out, but I personally think he's on that list, and I think he's still on that list. I don't think he looked like he was trying all that hard against Portland. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know what the answer is: the change of mentality, like Peter just said. But you can say that, as like you said, you can say it as many times as you want, but if the players don't do it, it's not going to matter.
Well, I mean, it's kind of here to go to my other job as a sales manager at a car dealership. I'll go with the fire and brimstone Saturday morning sales meeting before the sales day on Saturday and talk about how we can't let a deal leave. We have to get every deal. We're going to hit it. We're going to hit our goal. Let's go. I'll do that when I know we have 25 confirmed appointments that day. So no matter what we do, we're going to sell 20 cars. I won't do that when we have 3 appointments and it's a coin flip if we're going to sell 5 cars or not. You can kind of set yourself up to succeed. And that didn't seem to really be the case because, if Tim Leibold is one of the guys, well, really until Logan Ndebe is ready to come back, who do you have to play in his place?
I mean, Zoran Basong, but I don't know that he's necessarily. He may be an upgrade in mentality and in effort, but skill wise, I don't know that he's an upgrade. I don't know that he's a downgrade either, though. To be fair, I think it's
okay.
It's kind of it just is what it is there until we get Logan Ndebe in there. Center back is another problem. I don't know that. I mean, Fontas I think is stronger than Volodare, and they're all stronger than Castellanos. That's not the answer either. But Fontas is, I think, probably the slowest guy in the league. Gotta be.
Yeah,
and that is really causing us some problems. It's really hurting us because he's getting beat a lot. Rosero's back from injury, which will help. But I don't know. I'm hoping that's one of the big moves we make in the summer transfer window. But
yeah, and that's where that ability comes in, right? I mean, Fontas is a seasoned professional. He's played in high-level leagues, and he was a plus player for Sporting the first few years he was here. But, the league's getting better, and I think age catches up with you, and speed is so important. It's so, I mean, in every sport, but in soccer, it's just as important in football. I mean, take a look at the current and look at what an impact Temwa makes. And she changes the game because you have to respect it, and the teams are dropping 2 players back on their offensive possessions just to make sure that somebody's manning her up so she doesn't have a free run at the goal. It's obvious, and outside of Eric Tomey, I haven't seen anybody that really is explosively fast with the ball. I guess Willie Agata is fast, but it doesn't seem to amount to much. And Stephen Afria, we talked about him a lot in the preseason, but he's been a couple of late game subs. Is he maybe an answer on the offensive side?
Yeah, maybe. He had a good game against Tulsa, but I mean, Tulsa's a USL squad. If we could play them every week, that would be fantastic.
Sure.
But we just can't do that. So he had a good game there. But honestly, Afrifa could have even been more impactful in that game against Tulsa. He hit the crossbar twice, I think, and missed one. Same with Agata. But also credit where it's due. That Tulsa goalkeeper played out of his mind. He had 10 saves, I think, several of which were big time. So, but yeah, I think Afrifa could be an answer. Agata seems to not be able to hit broadside of a barn right now. He seems to be missing everything. So maybe we give Afrifa some more work, or maybe Vargas. Vargas also has a lot of speed. But Vargas is also very young, so I don't know that he has the knowledge base that we need to play up front in this league. So I don't know. That's another tough one.
Well, let's take the positive approach here. Let's say out of the next 4 games, they draw 1, win 2, lose 1. Is that enough to say, hey, we're turning the corner, we can make a run like we did last year?
I think that's a hard one to answer because it kind of depends on where we get the wins at. if we're just beating, like, because we play Seattle and Vancouver, which are towards the bottom of the table with us.
Mhm.
If we pull off one of those wins against Minnesota, who's in first or second, excuse me, or the Galaxy, I think is the other fourth game we play. That says a little bit more than if we're able to just beat, Seattle. But yeah, I would say if we can get 2 wins and a draw out of those 4, that's definitely shaping up, moving in the right direction for sure. Especially if we pair that with players getting healthy.
Fair enough. And Jeremy, let's swing back to the Royals. I've been asked a lot. I've had multiple people hit me up on X. Is the new Royal Stadium downtown the heart beating a little bit faster with what's happened this season? Do you think the downtown stadium is coming now?
I never really doubted that it was coming. I assumed it was coming eventually. Regardless, the biggest thing that's kind of standing in the way right this second is the Jackson County statute that says that they can't do another stadium vote for a year after the failed one. But the Royals, as I've just kind of maintained, is they want to do this as fast as possible. They want to be in a new stadium as soon as possible. It's one of the reasons they kind of rushed everything
Yeah.
to try and do that April vote, and they didn't have all their pieces together. They didn't have all their ducks in a row, and it cost them. But the fastest route for them is going to be staying in Kansas City, staying in Jackson County, because that's the only way they're going to be able to get out of their current lease, which doesn't end until 2031. So I don't know that the way they're playing changes anything really, because the team wants it to happen regardless. And if they're going to stay in Jackson County, that doesn't really change anything for Jackson County. It might sway some voters to come to their side, but I don't know how many it would sway.
What if they don't have to have a vote? Because it's now being talked about that the Port Authority may be able to do the equivalent of the Kansas Star bonds. And the state of Missouri now has a tax increment financing vehicle that is very similar to the Star bond. I think it was called, for Marvel fans, I don't think it has anything to do with Advanced Idea Mechanics, AIM. They're bad guys, but it sounded something like AIM. It's Advanced Manufacturing Infrastructure, and that they can use those and bond out a stadium, and you don't even need a vote, which is probably the cleanest way to do it. And as the Kansas City Current can attest to, it's a lot easier to get the money for the stadium when it doesn't have to be voted on, because that was Port Authority money that they got, plus their private money that went into it.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that. That's actually the first I'm hearing of it. The only thing I can say is that I'm really opposed to it, in that it's still going to be tax dollars that are going to come out of taxpayers,
Well, yeah.
funding, and they don't get a say in it. That doesn't seem right to me.
Well, no, in a truly democratic sense, no, it really doesn't. But I mean, it's government money, and it's going to improve the infrastructure of the area, and there you go.
Yeah, I
Steve's
mean,
in.
improving the infrastructure of the area is all well and good. It's just, what else does that money get used for, I guess.
Yeah,
Using it to save a billionaire a few bucks just doesn't strike me as particularly wise spending.
yeah, and the Royals aren't alone in meeting kickback. Story that's getting national traction right now. I mean, just today, the New York Mets, who are owned by the wealthiest owner in professional sports, Steve Cohen. He's worth 18 billion with a B. He wants to build a Hard Rock casino in the parking lot in Citi Field in the shadow of LaGuardia Airport, and the New York State Senator for that district is not on board, and she's able to block it herself. So you're seeing you are seeing the government spending to big ownerships having trouble everywhere. even in New York City, where they okayed building landfill to build the soccer stadium for NYFC because it's going to have a bunch of apartments and it's going to have schools go in. That was okayed, really in the same general neighborhood. I mean, I think it's kind of extended out a little bit from Citi Field, but building the casino with the sports book attached to Citi Field, that's meeting a whole lot of kickback.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna bring up the Las Vegas situation,
That's an issue
which,
too. Yeah.
yeah, not at all finalized.
No.
Just constant legal wrangling going on over there. So, if anything, that I think should reassure Royals fans that the Royals aren't going anywhere.
No, they're
Um,
going nowhere.
because if the Athletics can't get everything squared away in Las Vegas, well, everyone else is still any other city that thinks they want to give a baseball team money. Well, now
Yeah. Good
you got
luck.
them to bid against each other, and it's a whole thing. So
Yeah.
it just all of that just confirms to me that the Royals are going to stay in Kansas City. The Chiefs are going to stay in Kansas City. It's just a matter of Missouri side, Kansas side, and when and who pays for what.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, if you can't get a stadium built in Las Vegas with free property, because the Tropicana has already said, "Hey, the property's free. Here you go. We're gonna knock the Trop down. We'll build the new Bally's right behind it. It's yours." The tourism capital of America. They have all these hotel fees, all these visitor fees. I mean, you could literally build the stadium there, and a local resident probably you could easily justify saying would never have to pay $1 towards it, and it's still getting kicked back. And that's a
Yeah.
city that has 4 major arenas within about a 2.5-mile stretch of real estate and a new dome stadium, and they're balking at building the baseball stadium.
And,
So, yeah, it is a
years
different
of
time.
negotiations
Yeah.
that it's like it's not a simple matter to just move your baseball team anymore. I mean, I don't think it was ever that simple, but it's getting more and more complicated.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is because it's cost intensive and it is hard to justify the expense. And for baseball, more and more, that attendance is becoming so important. Their business model is moving more towards like the NHL, which is so dependent on box office because they have, honestly, the worst TV contract in the history of sports. I mean, watch ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, on a weekend in the middle of the baseball season, and all day, both days of the weekend, they're playing fast pitch softball games. How can Major League Baseball not be on one of the ESPN channels or of the one of the Fox Sports channels? It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, there's definitely some work to be done in baseball as far as making it more of a national pastime again. It's become very regionalized, where in football, they play that once, twice, well now 3, 4, or 5 times a week,
Yeah.
but all the games are televised one way or the
Yep.
other, and you'll have fans of the Chiefs or the Patriots all over the country, and so that's all fine and good. But in baseball, the Royals fans are pretty concentrated in the Kansas City area,
Sure.
so it's hard to for ESPN to say, yeah, we want to broadcast a Royals game, sure. Well, why would you want to? And it's one of the reasons, those Yankees and Dodgers games end up on the Sunday night baseball all the time, because those are the only ones that have really kind of national appeal. So that's absolutely something baseball needs to figure out as it's moving into its future.
Well, and Steve, talking about the TV contracts, I thought the MLS, that was a genius contract that they signed. Every game is available on Apple TV, and you can get discounts on it. You get months free from T-Mobile. There's months free from all sorts of different sources. You can get it essentially for free or for minimal money, like $9 a month. You can watch every game on TV, on demand, on your phone, and they made a hybrid plan where major games are on Fox Sports, on ABC, on ESPN. Did that did that TV contract with MLS, has that gotten the credit it deserves? Because I think they did a tremendous job because MLS TV was very random previously. You had to search to try and find it.
Yeah, I don't know that they probably haven't. I would say the answer is probably no. They haven't got the amount of credit that they should for that. But I think the other issue that you run into with MLS is it's not as widely watched as like baseball and the major sports are.
Yeah.
I would argue that is rapidly changing. I think a lot the viewership is growing dramatically. I don't have any stats to back that, but I would say it probably is. Players like Messi are obviously helping with that.
Sure.
So I think Apple jumped in at the perfect time for that. They jumped in right at the beginning of Messi, and now they're reaping all the benefits of it. I think that's probably harder to do with like the MLB. Something like that would be harder to do because there's already more money in it, and there's already established ways that the games are televised and stuff like that. Whereas MLS, we didn't have anything like that. You could watch locally, you could watch the games. And weirdly enough, I don't even remember how they televised games before. It's only been 2 seasons, but I already forgot how I used to watch
Yeah,
it.
I think they were on 38th the spot.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so but that's kind of proves my point that like we didn't really have an established way that you watch baseball. Whereas I know the Royals have they have a contract with Bally
Right.
Sports app
Bally
that you
Sports,
can get.
yeah, which I
And
think
there's
is
also
gonna
the
be,
issue of the local blackouts.
yeah,
Yes.
So if you've got a national broadcast, you've got to do all kinds of weird things if you want it to air locally and negotiate with all these people. So that's one thing where Bally Sports going under might actually benefit baseball in that it reverts a lot of those contracts back to the teams. If MLB starts doing its own streaming, like you're saying Apple does with soccer, then they might be able to work something out, like you're saying with the hybrid stuff, and maybe get their money that way.
Yeah. I think the blackouts are wild. It's never really made sense to me, and I have an MLB TV subscription. It's how I watch the Royals, but I live in Colorado.
Right.
But like
Yeah.
I was back in Missouri this past weekend trying to watch the Royals, and I'm like going like I've done every single night this entire season. Go to MLB TV and I click on it, and it only gives me audio, and I'm like, why can't I watch that? Like it took me like 10 minutes to go, oh, it's because I'm in network now.
Yep.
And I can't watch
Yeah.
this. I'm like, they're in Tampa Bay. They're not even at home. But it's I don't know that I hate the blackout stuff. I wish they'd get rid of that. It makes it so difficult.
Yeah, the blackout rules are especially bad when you think about like how wide ranging some of them are. One of my favorite baseball writers, Craig Calcaterra, who lives in Ohio, can't watch Pirates games in Ohio because the
Really?
blackout. You can't watch Cardinals games in Iowa. Or Royals games, I think, for that matter. It's just wild.
Yeah, no, they've got these archaic contracts that honestly, in a way, it kind of reminds me of what killed the Big 12 in its original setup because Texas had their foot on the scale, doing the old cartoon style counting when Yosemite Sam would count out to Bugs Bunny. 1, 2 for me, 3 for you. 1, 2, 3, 4 for me, 5 for you. That's kind of how Texas counted their revenue. And that's what's happening in baseball with the Yankees and the Dodgers and really the Red Sox to a degree. And it's starting to hurt these teams because the Dodgers, same position as the Royals, they took the cash grab with Valley Sports. And now there's only one cable system that carries the game. And the vast majority of LA can't watch the Dodgers. And at some point, you think all these local advertisers are going to say, "Whoa, wait a minute. Hey, why are we paying this? Because nobody's seeing the ads." And the only answer Bally Sports has is, "We'll give you more ads." Well, it doesn't matter. Nobody could see it.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling that the company MLB.com was so ahead of things with streaming video that other teams, other franchises signed up to have MLB.com set up their streaming platforms, and they're the ones who got left behind because the only saving grace that could happen right now is the bankruptcy court saves them from themselves, and that lets MLB and Amazon. It still doesn't get MLB all the money. Amazon may end up kind of knifing in. It's really hard to imagine. And I would watch every Royals game almost, but I literally can't watch any of them because I don't have access to it on my TV. I can't watch it on MLB.com. And even if I get the app doesn't have clearance to stream on the TVs I own. So I'd have to watch it on my phone or my iPad. It's really mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I grew up in Minnesota. I have a lot of friends up there that I have one in particular. He always complains about this because he lives 15 minutes from Target Field.
Yeah.
Where like on a quiet night he can hear the games from his apartment, but he can't watch them because of local blackouts.
Yeah.
So and then on MLB TV he can't watch them because of the blackouts.
Sure.
So he has to get MLB TV and then get a VPN so he can change his location,
Mhm.
and that only works like half the time. And he's like, I live 15 minutes from the stadium and I can't watch the game.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely crazy. Well, and in Atlanta, the ultimate insult to injury. The Braves, who were on Superstation TBS, and everybody saw the Braves back with Dale Murphy and Bob Horner on the team, and Chip Carey and Skip Carey doing play-by-play. Well, now they can't televise the Braves games in the Braves Stadium. I'm sure they've gotten a workaround, but they weren't able to show the video of the games in the press boxes in the suites at the Braves Stadium because of carrying issues with the cable companies.
Oh my goodness.
It's really unbelievable. Well, hey, let's just hit on the Chiefs really quick. I know it's not the main area of your guys' focus, but OTAs were going on. We get mandatory minicamp coming up. And I think it's a universal question. Are the distractions that the Chiefs have picked up this offseason enough to kind of derail some of their obvious momentum coming off of 2 Super Bowls? Or do you think the additions of Marquise Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Jared Wiley are going to be enough to withstand whatever punishment Rashee Rice gets, and the Harrison Butker commencement speech will eventually fade away because everybody's saying, hey, we don't agree with his personal opinions, but he's entitled to them, and he's a teammate, and we're going to support him. And he is arguably the best kicker in the league, so he's going to benefit from the old Troy Aikman rules that Jimmy Johnson had. If the backup tight end falls asleep in a meeting, I cut him. If Troy Aikman falls asleep in a meeting, we turn the lights off, let everybody take a break, and we start the meeting up again when Troy wakes up. What do you guys think?
I don't think
Distract
Andy
is a
Reid
problem?
believes in distractions. Plain and simple. I don't know that the whole team really believes in distractions, but I don't think Andy Reid's going to let them be distracted by anything. So I expect this year will go. Everybody else is going to do a lot of talking except for the in-house Chiefs and the fans that have paid attention enough to know that we just let everybody talk and we'll just keep winning games until the playoffs come, and then we'll get our three-peat and we'll move on.
Yeah, if the Royals don't get their, or excuse me, the Chiefs don't get their three-peat this year, it's not going to be because of these distractions. One thing that happened early in the offseason, they're all anybody wants to talk about now because there's no other news happening.
Yeah.
The season is still months away from starting. By then,
Sure.
No one's even going to be thinking about him. Rashee Rice is going to get a suspension. Everyone's going to go, why is he suspended again?
Yeah.
So I don't think the distractions are going to hurt the team at all.
That's true. Yeah. Time helps things kind of go away. So burn the stories out now, and then you don't have to worry about them when it's time for training camp to start. Very true. Hey, let's go ahead and get our champions of the week. Got the Wrestling Spotlight Championship belt here. Steve, who's your weekly champion?
There's only one
won the
clear
week?
and obvious choice for this week, and it has to go with everyone's number one choice to score, and that's Elizabeth Ball for the Kansas City Current.
There you go.
Keeping our winning streak going. It's who everyone thought was going to score. It's the obvious choice, I think.
E-Ball.
Yep.
Good one. Jeremy?
So I'm going to go with the AL's Player of the Week, Bobby Witt Jr. He's was playing amazing before this last week, but he found his power stroke again and has just added home runs onto everything else he was already doing tremendously well.
Sure.
He is something special, and it's exciting to watch him in a lot of the same ways it's exciting to watch Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. It feels like you're probably watching a future Hall of Famer just do his thing.
Yeah, and you know what stood out to me at the game that I was attending, he was the last person into the clubhouse after the win. He was standing in the hallway, and if you haven't been at Kauffman Stadium recently, the Diamond Club exits out into the hallway that leads to the clubhouse. So the players walk out through that same hallway. Bobby Witt was standing there signing autographs after the game, after the manager's press conference, after all the media talked to the players in the clubhouse, after players were getting dressed and leaving. Cole Reagans was the starting pitcher. He was already leaving. And I said, "Hey, man, great game." As he was walking out, Bobby Witt was still signing autographs in the hallway. So that's a great look for your best player because,
Absolutely.
man, the fans remember that. The kids remember it. It was really kind of impressive. And he played a great game too. I'm going to go with Seth Lugo because, man, he is overachieving any expectations I think anyone had for him. The guy's on a Cy Young pace, and really, the Royals got him for what looks like now a value. I guess my secondary weekly champion has to be JJ Piccolo because, man, everything he's touched has turned to gold. And if they can even if their pace slows down, like you were saying, Jeremy, I mean they're in great position. It's gonna be some relevant baseball, some entertaining baseball for fans to watch in Kansas City throughout the season. And I'll just close it out here. I had a chance to talk with Rex Hudler, and he talked about, the opportunity to watch a team win. Here we go.
Hey, we're here at Kauffman Stadium talking to one of the most enthusiastic men in baseball, Rex Hudler. Rex, man, it has to be so much more fun calling the game this year.
Oh, you kidding me, Gerald? Look, even when you have seasons that don't go like you plan or like the team plans, it's still the grand game. Are you kidding? I feel very fortunate and thankful to be able to have an opportunity and have a shot to talk about baseball in front of the fans. It's a great opportunity to be a broadcaster. So today, I mean, every day's a day, but when the team's going bad and when the team's not winning games like last season, you have to do a lot more explaining. You have to do a little bit more critiquing, not the players, not sit up there with a hammer, but compared to when you win, you can just pull back and watch them go. Like when they're hitting like they're hitting and stuff, it makes it so much easier. But it's a blessing. Let's not lose sight of the fact that it's a blessing to have this job. And how many millions of people would love to be out there winning or losing. So you always have perspective. Perspective keeps you in the game, and being thankful, having a thankful heart, that works.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Rex. Appreciate all the work you do bringing the game to KC.
Yes, I love it, sir. It's what an honor to be in Kansas City. My family, our schooling, the kids have gotten great education here. 13 years have passed so good. But the best thing really has been to be here during their most historical years in 14 and 15.
Yeah.
So what a blessing.
Awesome. Hey, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
That's a positive guy.
What a guy.
Him so much.
I do too.
Yeah, maybe we'll give the weekly champion to Rex Hudler for that display of attitude.
Unanimous.
Man,
There we go.
that's a guy enjoying his job. Well, hey, for Jeremy, for Royals Review, for Steve from Page to Wall Podcast, I'm Gerald Bentley. You've been watching TimeOut Kansas City on the Fired Up Network. To watch programming like this 24/7 on your TV, on your phone, on your computer, just download that True TV Plus app. It's available on Amazon, Roku, and the Apple App Store. Guys, thanks a lot for joining us here. And hey, Jeremy, where can the viewers find your work?
Yeah, so royalsreview.com, Royals Rundown Podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm always on Twitter at Hakius, Hokius.
There you go. And Steve, outside of the Fired Up Network, where can people find your work?
I was just gonna say we are streaming on the Fired Up Network, same where you'll see this one on Twitter or X, whatever. PTW_pod, Paint the Wall podcast on Spotify and YouTube as well.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Have a great week, guys. And everybody, thanks for joining us here and getting caught up on Kansas City sports.